Today we're talking with Chris from the Raiders adaptation, and I don't have any idea where we're about to go with this conversation, but I will say we're pretty sure it belongs in a podcast. Thank you for coming on the show with us, Chris. I really appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen. Nice to be here. I appreciate it.
This is awesome being able to talk to you and actually get some more background info of everything that you've done because for anyone who doesn't know, you should know, first of all, that you did a 7 to 8 year project recreating Raiders of the Lost Ark. And so it's Raiders the Adaptation. So if you haven't heard of it, you need to go check it out because it is incredible what these guys had done at such a young age on top of everything, which I'm still fascinated with. So I'm personally excited to be here talking to you about all of this.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it.
I'm sure you get asked a lot of questions. I know you guys went and did your tour when you were promoting the movie being released on media, and you toured around and showed the film. You know, yeah, I'm sure you got a lot of repeat questions, so it makes it probably easier to answer them. But for me,
Ask away. It's
I
been
was
a
gonna say,
long.
but for me
Yeah.
personally, like now it's my turn, right? I'm like,
Yeah. No. All good. Ask the
yeah,
questions.
yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, let me ask then. So I mean, short of you guys going to the theater because you didn't have a physical copy of the movie, right? Like it didn't
Correct.
exist. Yeah, I think that's the
Yeah.
most
So
amazing part.
yeah. I mean, growing up in the '80s, we just didn't have access to the same sort of like multitude and rosters of entertainment that we do now, where you log on and you can, bit torrent your favorite film that's released 5 minutes ago. Um, so we worked from memory for the first handful of years, and collected all of the things that we could regarding Raiders. So it was a carryover from a lot of the stuff that Lucasfilm was doing, with Star Wars fandom, and the carryover from, like, I don't know if you guys remember this or have collected these things back in the day, but there was this amazing series of newsletters that would come out of Lucasfilm called Bantha Tracks.
Yep.
And Bantha Tracks were, I collected every single damn one of those things, and they were pushing Indiana Jones and that carryover with Harrison, and so got hooked on that and was excited. But you go to see the film, and I'm like, I want to be Indiana Jones, and so I started on that journey. But when I met Eric and we kind of really started going, we realized we didn't have any source material aside from, like, buy Fangoria magazine, buy
Yep.
Starlog, watch, go to the comic books. That was sort of our source. And so there's a well-known story now where in the middle of summer, I put on a big winter jacket and I strapped a Radio Shack tape recorder to my stomach, hoping to just walk into the theater and record the sequential audio of the film in its entirety, and like, and then just logistically of like opening up the jacket, flipping the tape, making sure that the other side of the cassette, but I didn't have any of that happen because I actually got thrown out of the theater. Um, and so, but Eric pulled it off, and he looks a lot less mischievous than I do, I guess. And so he got a cassette of the film, and of just the audio. And then I think a few years later, it was like the what was it? The laser disc came out, but we had realized that um, he Eric wanted to be a comic book artist, and his drawing skills were just amazing at that time, and he cobbled together every single scrap that we could have, Raiders of the Lost Ark on vinyl, which is like, when Indy snaps the whip, turn the page,
Yeah.
Yep.
and you have the storybook and all that kind of fun stuff. And so he cobbled together, years of stuff that we had already been collecting, and he hand drew almost 700 individual storyboards, angles, shot descriptions, characters, interior, exterior. He really went the full mile with it, and used the original storyboard frame template that Steven had used and all that kind of stuff. and realized when we got the laser disc that it was almost totally accurate. There were a couple of flips in terms of angles, and we
Yeah.
used that as the blueprint for our entire, multi-year journey of recreating Raiders.
Some of the videos I had seen, like on YouTube, with you and Eric, shows like those storyboards. Like he pulled them out of the trash bag, hoping to preserve them. Like, are those still around?
Great question. I think Eric has them.
Oh wow,
I lost so much in the fires.
yeah.
I can't really remember. I lost a lot of the original stuff, but I think Eric still has all the original costume sketches that he did,
Oh wow.
and I think he has all the original storyboards. But the storyboards have been preserved.
Okay,
Eric created a storyboard book, and all this is available on his website for storyboards and all the memorabilia and the DVD and the Blu-ray and the posters and everything that we've, all the fun Raiders adaptation merch, T-shirts.
Hmm.
yeah.
But Eric
Plug
created
that website for anyone watching that wants to go see that.
Yeah, I have to. I think it's I'll have to get it to you afterwards.
That's
That's
fine,
fine.
and I'll
Yeah, we
post it
can.
in the link.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
we can drop it in, but Eric has a really awesome website that he created with all of the bundles and all the DVDs, and it's a really good looking website, and he's got everything available. But we had the storyboard book where he scanned all of the original storyboards and photographs and told the tale of how it was created. So there's inserts and letters that we wrote to each other and scans of drawings that we did as kids, letters back and forth from Mississippi to New York, and then the forward was written by the gentleman who did all the original storyboards for Steven.
That's
So,
incredible.
so it's quite a collector's piece. There's not a lot of them, but I do know Eric has them available on his site. He runs all the Raiders guys stuff, and it's a damn cool book. But yeah, and then as I recall, all of the original props from our Raiders movie, like the Ark of the Covenant that Eric made, the boulder. Eric still has all that, and those have been through hurricanes. They went through
Yeah.
Katrina.
Yeah.
And I think the storyboards are actually historically kept inside the ark.
Oh man, that's so cool.
That's funny.
I'm
Yeah.
like I'm blown away. Like you guys made a well of the souls in a basement.
Yes, we did.
And I,
Yes,
I
we
just
did.
I love the scene of like Indy looking up and you see like the blue tarp there. Like it's
Yeah, that was
fantastic. Like I
yeah.
absolutely love it, and the fact that this was made back then, you guys had such few resources to pull this off is just insane to me.
Thank you. Yeah, no internet, no source material, and aside from what we kind of pulled together, we used Eric's mom's house as our sound stage. So the basement was it was an old um, home built in 1906, I think it was. So it was multi-layered and it was perfect for like a soundstage studio HQ for the Raiders kids, and it was an old heater, an old gas heater that was in the floor, and it was no longer in use. It was at the base of the stairwell. And we realized that if we removed that heater, it would give us the full depth of looking down from the top floor into the basement, and it was the perfect size for the Wall of the Souls.
That's incredible.
I love the fact that you got so many adults to be complicit with your kind of pipe dream, like
The
lighting the
bar
wall on
scene,
fire for the Raven.
the
Like
bar
like
scene, like
right. Yeah,
a bunch
it's
of
to
kids
me
running
it's just
around in fire. Like, come on.
like Alex and I both have kids, and it's like try to imagine your kids coming to be like, okay, we want to light this wall on fire. It's for this movie we really love. It's like
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, and it's like with each new passage of life, there's realization about certain things, and of course, I don't want to like wait our conversation here, but having lost everything in the fires, in Altadena, and knowing the power of fire, what we did as children inside that house and in the basement was absolutely ridiculously stupid. You
It
know,
looks like it. Yeah.
um, like we lit the whole room on fire, the whole basement. And so, and uh, some of the stuff we were communicative about, like, hey, we're going to do this, and a lot of the stuff we just did it and didn't tell anybody until after the fact.
Yep.
We did
Ask for
get in trouble
forgiveness
for
later.
that. Yeah, the moms who were the current studio bosses almost shut us down, but we I think that was the chemistry that Eric and I had, is that when our voices were joined together and our energies were sort of like, we would push for something, there really wasn't a whole lot that we couldn't accomplish, and even as kids, like, I remember we would get the question on the road. We toured for, I don't know what, 12 years or something like that, with film festivals and fundraising and all, and teaching and all that kind of stuff. And one of the questions that has often come up through the years is, okay, how does a 13-year-old kid get a full authentic submarine? Like, how does that happen? And really, it comes down to basic human fortitude, which is, you ask.
Yeah.
You just ask for it. Like, I want that, and I'm sure, Alex, you have that energy, and I can see it behind you with all that cool stuff, which is like, hustling with Paramount, breaking through that corporate wall, partnering with them.
Hmm.
You just simply ask. And if you are bold and positive and courageous enough to push and ask again and ask for a third time,
Persistence
and
is
you
key.
don't give up, it's amazing what you can accomplish if you
Hmm.
simply just push.
Yep, absolutely. And
Yeah.
speaking of on tour, like we were talking earlier, um, your story of like just being able to spend time with Steven Spielberg with this is absolutely mind blowing to me. Um, I just can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Well, the bridge to that was, years after the film was finished, Jason, Eric, and I all went our separate ways, right? We went and moved all over the country and kind of went our separate ways. We all had our respective ups and downs with life. And then years later, there's a filmmaker, I'm sure we all know him, Eli
Eli
Roth.
Roth. Yep.
Yeah. And
Yep.
so
Yep,
Eli premiered his film in Toronto, I think it was, and it got picked up there by Lionsgate, Cabin Fever,
love
which
that
they're
movie.
releasing again. Yeah, crazy movie, and
Yeah,
now they're releasing it on 4K, and super super cool. Um, and so Eli was an NYU grad, and Eric was also an NYU grad, different generations, but in the sort of like cultish VHS underground, Eli had a copy of the tape. And when his film got picked up, he was doing the rounds of studios and pitching new ideas and hustling scripts, and getting his next round of projects off the ground. And he went to DreamWorks, and he had this old battered VHS tape that from the NYU days of our film. And he was there with a development executive, and he said, "Okay, I this is a little sort of non sequitur, but you got to watch this." And the guy's like, "It's Raiders of the Lost Ark. I've seen it." And he goes, "No, man, you haven't seen this. You got to check this out." He said, "I think Steven really like it." And so he did. And then so the executive gets back to Eli. "Oh my God, Steven watched it. He is in love with this tape and wants to write the guys a letter." So we'd all gone our separate ways. We were all sort of off the radar, off the map, and Eli hunted us all down. And I get a call from Eli, and the same sort of story with Jason and Eric. I get a call from Eli at work. "Hey, I'm Eli Roth. I'm a filmmaker. I just had a film, Cabin Fever. Steven Spielberg has seen your film and wants to write you guys a letter." And I'm like,
what?
"This is bullshit.
Right?
Somebody's pulling my somebody's pulling my leg," because it was random. I had forgotten about Raiders. I think I'd gotten married at the time, and like didn't even tell my wife that I was an Indiana Jones fan. I was It was all sort of like,
You gotta wait till after you're married.
yeah, in the closet. I was
Yep.
in the closet with Indiana Jones, and so sure enough, a handful of days later, I get this beautiful letter. It just says SS on it, and I crack it open, and it's a letter from Steven on his personal letterhead, and it was just like, "I just wanted to tell you that this inspired even me, and I am so excited." And I had that letter on my wall. I lost it in the fire.
Oh,
Uh,
oh
No.
man.
Yeah, but I scanned it, and I could send you guys a picture of it. Um, but and then when so in um, I can't remember what year it was. My brain doesn't remember everything. But Eli Roth and the then new theater chain called the Alamo Drafthouse Cinema,
Yep.
which I'm sure you guys know.
Mm-hmm.
Harry Knowles, who was at the height of his, sort of like, he's since sort of moved on with some troubles and what have you. But then it was Ain't It Cool News
Yep. And
and
the butt numathon. Yeah.
Button-Up-A-Thon,
Yep.
exactly.
Yep.
And so we were reunited by Tim Lee in the Alamo Drafthouse Cinema, Eli Roth and Harry Knowles, and we went down to Austin
Yep.
to have a world premiere of our film.
Oh man.
And when we got there were hundreds and hundreds of people wrapped around the block, and we were like, what is everybody waiting in line for? And they're like, your movie. And we were like, stop it.
Huh.
Not possible. Don't believe you. And sure enough, they were all there, and they all packed into the theater, and we had, a 6-minute standing ovation at the end of it. And that really kicked off everything, because Harry Knowles then posted on the top of his, website the next morning, this is the greatest fan film ever made.
Man.
And that put us on the map. And, then we start to get interview requests from Rolling Stone and GQ, and then of course Vanity Fair. And the Vanity Fair piece is what really put us on the map. And so the Vanity Fair piece, we got into an exclusive. Jim Windolf wrote the piece with Vanity Fair. It was published in the 2003 Celebrity Edition, and I sent a copy to Steven and his press person. Who I think he's since passed away, but we established a good relationship with him. He was one of those classic old Hollywood press guys. We don't like what you're doing with the Raiders thing, but he was really kind, very generous. Stephen was very generous. Um, and then we started to do a tour. And, we did the whole thing we had an agent, we had a manager, we had an attorney, all that stuff. We got really thrust into the sort of Hollywood pipeline. It was very exciting, the three of us bopping around. And then we get a phone call, and it's our agent, and he says, hey, I just got a call from Steven Spielberg's office, and for some reason he knew you guys were in town, and he wants you to stop by
Oh man.
tomorrow. And we were like, what? and Jason Lamb, who was always kind of the more nonchalant, kind of unfiltered of the trio, he was like, I knew it. I knew it was gonna call. And I'm like, get out, So we got all prepared, and we drove on to the Universal lot. And we drove back to the Amblin gates, and it's like these Jurassic Park.
Oh man.
Yes.
And
they open, and we drive onto the lot, and we're like, oh my god, in some like shitty rental car, and we walk in. And we're like, hey, we're the Raiders guys. We're here to see Mr. Spielberg. And, they're like, hey, yeah, 3 guys here to see Steven. We're like, okay, so we go up. We go into his conference room. And there's original, who's that American artist? He did all the hyper-realistic Americana. Steven loves him.
Drew Struzan.
Not Drew.
I was like, you got to be talking. Like, when you said hyper realistic, I thought for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, all this original art on the wall, and we hear the familiar voice that we all grew up with in the other room, Steven Spielberg talking in the other room, and we're all waiting there in the conference room. And he walks in and he goes, "Hey boys, how are you? Nice to see you." And we sat down with him and chatted with him for a good hour, just asked him questions and talked Raiders and talked Indiana Jones. And then he said, "You guys want to see some outtakes?" And we were like, "Yeah." Yeah. So he brings us into his office, and he asked some of his, support in his staff there, like, hey guys, pull the tapes from blah 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 blah. And we sat in his office, which was like it's a gorgeous sort of like low ceiling, dark wood, 1930s Casablanca cabana,
Oh wow.
and he has his beautiful wall of you know, backlit all of his awards that he's won, and all just like live birds in his office, in cages, and it's absolutely fantastic. And so he throws on. We watched outtakes from Raiders. We watched outtakes from Temple of Doom, and this is now public knowledge, but it wasn't public knowledge when we were in the office yet.
Mhm.
And he goes, I'm going to show you guys something. And we're like, cool. So he puts on this tape and it brings it up on the screen. And it's one of the sets from Temple of Doom.
Oh.
And and Harrison is in costume and he's strapped to a rock.
Mm.
And he's feigning, helplessness. Help me, help me. And in the background, we see this dark figure, this dark shadowed figure emerge from the darkness. And this dark figure appears to be female. Can't quite tell. And emerging from the darkness is Barbara Streisand. And she's got a bullwhip. And she starts spanking Harrison with the bullwhip. And Steven is like, he's laughing, because he loves that really shticky kind of hammy stuff. And he goes, that's Barbara. That's my friend. Like, yeah, we all know who Barbara Streisand is. One of the most famous people in the world, and she's spanking him with the whip. And he's like, oh no, stop. And then this person jumps into camera dressed in a full thuggy warrior costume and blocks Barbara Streisand with the whip and takes the thuggy headdress off. It's Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
And she says, I'll save you, Han. I'll save you. And they start kind of like shuffling around and having a good time, totally shticky. And then off camera, you see Irvin Kershner, director of Empire Strikes Back, poke his head in, and because they were shooting Temple of Doom and Empire on the same sound stages at the same time, and he goes, Steven, this is ridiculous. This is never going to work. Never. And so there was this bit, right? This whole bit. And so Spielberg showed us to that off this old cassette that he had. And so that was a real treat. And we just continued to ask him questions. He was very gracious. And then as we were exiting, this is a famous Jason Lamb story. As we were exiting, Jason Lamb, in his, beautiful, wonderful, unfiltered way, we all shake, Mr. Spielberg, thank you so much. And the last thing where we leave Spielberg is Jason says, I don't care what anybody says about The Color Purple. I loved it. And we're like, Jason.
Oh man.
I could kill you. But it made such a great story, And that was our afternoon. And it was just tremendous. It was everything, obviously meeting your childhood heroes is, like I don't get starstruck, but I'd probably pee myself if I met Harrison. He's like 6'3" and I'm not. I'm a short, chunky Greek guy. So plus this history. So if I met Harrison, I think I'd be a little intimidated. Maybe not as an older person. But so I've met some folks, but Spielberg was everything that you would hope. He was warm. He was paternal. He was mogul. He was gracious. Spielberg was everything that, you'd hoped it would be if you met him and chatted with him.
That's awesome.
So that's my Spielberg story.
I love that. And I can totally understand how he like resonated with your guys' film because I mean that's what he did, you know, like he and back then we didn't have the CGI and the stuff that we do these days. You guys literally had to make this yourself, like he did. So him seeing the dedication you put into that, I can totally understand why he wanted to meet you guys. That is, and that's incredible.
Yeah, it was a cool experience. He was and has been gracious and generous with everything, that he in parallel with our story. Like when the book came out, he gave us a testimonial, and we slapped it on the back of the book proudly, which is, it's he said something along the lines, "This is the single greatest bit of flattery that George and I have ever received."
That's so
And
cool.
that was nice, true or not, but it came from the man himself,
I
and so,
I don't
you
doubt
know,
that. That's I believe it 100% because, like
Yeah,
I
I was
said,
gonna say, in my travels, I've never heard of somebody being invited there under those pretenses and having that sort of experience.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've got to believe it's somewhat sincere. I mean, like I think there's a lot of Kevin Smith obviously has been highly affected by Lucas, and I mean, there's a lot of people that will tell you right off the bat, I'm very inspired by this person, Mangold himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can't imagine that that's untrue, because you guys showed up every day for years, trying to remake something that I think might be his masterpiece. I think
Mm-hmm.
that might be the thing that he did that just blows the rest of them away. And
yeah, I mean, and there's so many.
yeah. Oh, I mean, well, Jaws. I mean, the cinematography of Jaws, and I mean, like, you're right. We could sit and debate that all day. I thought I didn't think he had any more left in him. And I hate to say it, Steven, if you ever listen to this. But like Minority Report, I was a doubter. I think that was 2002. I think it came out on my birthday, and I was like, I'm gonna go because it's Steven, but like, I don't know if he's got the juice anymore. And I went and saw it, and I'm like, yeah, well, I'm wrong again. And I think
Yeah,
that's the difference. Is I'm a fan, I'm not a creator, right? So I don't creators are the one thing they have that I don't is that perpetual optimism. Somehow they just come back to it. They just keep at it and they wind up persevering because of that persistence. So like we were talking about earlier, just asking for things. The submarine, I love the submarine thing. Like just being persistent about that, and like finding someone who wants to show off their submarine can be the difference maker, right? So
and that's interesting, Brian, that you say that because not a lot of people in the fan community are able to have that internal delineation with themselves.
yeah.
They don't. They oftentimes lose and blur the lines between fan and creator. And for you to say, "I'm not a creator, I'm a fan,"
Yeah.
because I think we all have probably experienced through you know all of the conventions that we've been to and all of the fan groups that we have circulated through discussions, conventions, conferences, and whatever, where people come together. And there is a nuance of fandom that is competitive, right? Everybody wants that sort of
Yep.
like, I'm the number one fan. No, I am the number one fan. I have
Oh,
more stuff than you
oh
do.
yes.
Right? I know more than you do. I have had a
Yes.
greater transcendent experience with this franchise than you. And you know what? To me, that's all bullshit because
It,
it's like, you know what? Love it, appreciate it in the way that you have the personal capacity to do so.
oh,
We love it, right? And
we've
so
a
it's like,
hundred percent. Yeah, we've 100% encountered that. Yeah, and I don't.
yep,
I've never met a fan who is a greater fan than me, and I've never met a fan that's a lesser fan than me. If you're a fan, you're a fan,
you're a
That's it.
fan,
and
right?
that's just it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
Just
so,
because I
yeah,
have all this stuff behind me doesn't make me any more of a fan than someone who just watched the
right,
movie for the first time yesterday. That's what
right.
I've always stuck by, and so that's a big thing to me too. I've stated that publicly too
Yep,
in comments like. Just because I have all this, I do not consider myself any bigger
right.
of a fan than someone who, and not anywhere near as important than the person who saw it for the first time yesterday. That's
And
it.
and there's a parallel there too, Chris. Like what you were saying about, you're saying, well, I don't know how sincere this was, or whatever. But we got invited to go do this, but everybody had the same chance to make your movie as you did. They just didn't. And Alex gets grief on occasion, because but there's nothing that he's doing that no one else could do. He just has that perpetual passion to do it.
This
You know, so you hit a very interesting point. Yeah, you've
Yeah,
gotten drawn into our inner circle very quickly.
it's about manifesting your fandom, right? It's
Yeah,
about what is the level of expression that you want to embrace in order to manifest your fandom and feel, because we, Alex and I were chatting about this, when things were getting started, but like, you get on that treadmill, and of like, ooh, I'm gonna get the next thing, or I'm gonna go to the next premiere, or I'm gonna meet the next person, and in a way, that's almost a creative expression as well.
Yep.
Because you are creatively manifesting that fandom around you, right? That is how you express yourself. And it is the externalization of your fandom that you feel internally, which is like, God, I love these movies. God damn, I love these movies. I love Indiana Jones. And how do you manifest that passion, that excitement, as we kind of like go through our lives and we get married and we have kids and we have a mortgage and all those sorts of things? This is this tier of excitement that continues to electrify our lives and give us hope and keep us energized. Alex, I love your energy in all of your videos. Your energy is just absolutely friggin' awesome.
I appreciate that.
I'm not that kind of guy,
And,
but
yeah,
it's I again, all of us have had our different experience, but I I love your energy on your videos, the way that you sort of like just cheerlead it and champion everything. It's like, yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And to be honest, I've seen excitement, but I haven't. I think you refreshed it in a lot of ways. You
Oh,
refreshed that voice in a lot of ways for fans, where you're like, for me to like stop and my attention is grabbed, or like, oh,
and
okay.
that's just what we're able to capture for his video.
Yeah.
I will say that, like, he's my friend, right? So being around him, I wish I could capture and show you, like, when he happens upon something that's like a collectible or something that he doesn't have yet. I wish I could, like, get that and put it in a bottle, because that's the really infectious stuff. When you're around him and you see that, and we all get that as fans, like, there's things that make our fandom more tangible, right? And when he finds something like that, he's like a kid in a candy shop, and we never get that on film, not the way we would like to. But it's kind of precious, So I do love that. Um,
Like unboxing videos, like the
oh
unboxing
yeah,
videos are just like, I mean, I've seen a trillion unboxing videos, right? But like, I was like, I'm, I'm gonna watch
yeah,
this one.
yeah,
I'm gonna watch Alex unbox this, because like, I think I'm actually excited now.
yeah.
You
oh,
know? You
you
know?
guys.
I love it. Like, he didn't
You
just
know?
get that raft from Temple of Doom. He like rode it down his stairs, and I'm just like, this guy.
Yeah,
Like
I
this.
mean, and that's what it's like, to really just be excited, deeply
Yeah,
excited, and I think I think a lot of the airplane scene and going back many years later and reuniting everybody. I mean, you want to return. There's something precious about childhood. Not all of us have had great childhoods. A lot of dark memories from childhoods. A lot of things, but there is a landscape of naivete and electricity and energy, and you are in a time where you don't know yet that you can't do something.
yeah,
And I think that unbounded energy and that lack of that absence of self-editing is there. And that's what keeps us excited and fresh and unbounded. And I think a lot of the childhood energy, certainly as we get older, is something that we want to return to. We want to capture that. And so I think fandom and being a fan of something, and there's a certain fixation, there's a certain obsession, there's a certain drive, where it embodies our thoughts, it encompasses and consumes us, right? And that is exciting, because again, as we get older, there aren't a lot of things that give us that fire. I mean, except for our families and our kids and things
Of
that we
course.
love and that we protect, and that are the foundations and cornerstones of human existence. But that little extra, like, I got a coin collection, or I collect, whatever, Star Wars puzzles, ceramic cats, whatever it is, it's that fire,
Hmm.
right? It keeps us hopeful.
Everybody needs an outlet, and this is it for me. And the way I share my passion may not be the way someone else shares their passion, but there's no wrong in that.
Nope,
And
at
that's
all.
what needs to be understood is as long as you're not hurting anybody or anything, be excited. Who
Yeah.
cares? You know?
One of the funniest conversations I read in an Indiana Jones forum online is people were picking on each other
Mhm.
and going back and forth on their jackets that they had. Well, my Wested jacket is more authentic than yours because if you check in the original film, Harrison's jacket had 11 and a half stitches on the shoulder. Yours
Right.
only has yours has 12. So it's not really screen accurate. I'm better than you. Yeah, it's just like, guys, stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Cut
mean,
it out.
we're here to have fun.
like my jacket had epaulets, and that's like, that could be considered blasphemy, in the Indiana Jones world, but we did it.
Yeah, I
And
think I
you
think a lot of people assume like I started off, as a fan like everybody else. I had the original trilogy on VHS, and I wanted to be Indiana Jones and dress up like Indiana Jones, and I was doing it all wrong, right? And as I got older, that changed, right? I wanted the right look, and so that all changed. But a lot of people assume that Alex is a costumer, and he's really not,
I,
right? That
it's
doesn't
just
mean he
not
doesn't.
my well, the main thing I would do more, but living in Florida,
Yeah,
I
it's not
can't.
easy.
I
Yep, it's
sweat too much,
dedication. Yep.
and I will literally be carried out of a theme park or anywhere I'm at in a jacket or any of those kind of clothes. I can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, we shot the airplane scene. I was in full gear. It felt like Tunisia. It was 106 degrees.
Mhm.
I had to like pack myself in ice packs.
Yeah.
I was really, and I was in good shape. Not anymore, but but it was, those the heat like that they did in the desert in Tunisia. I mean, it was real.
That's real.
You guys know Florida heat, Mississippi heat.
Mhm.
That's hot, man. Plus, it's humid.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
like wool pants,
Oh
thick
yeah.
leather jacket, a hat, all your gear,
Oh yeah.
it's a lot to sustain.
I'm miserable in shorts and a shirt. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you plan your day around air conditioning. Come on.
absolutely, so, but yeah, like cosplay isn't not that there's anything bad with cosplay. Like I
Nothing
love
wrong with
seeing
it.
people's
Yeah.
cosplay, but it's just not my thing. It's not how I choose to show my excitement.
Yep.
I like collecting. This is the stuff that I do in this
Yeah,
fandom. And there's no wrong way to show your passion. And,
yep,
I wish more people would, do that. And, like when we talk, and I understand there's also, I've talked to many people who are almost scared because of like comments like you said, like they're worried that they're going to get made fun of because it's not accurate. And that, that shouldn't be the case,
Yeah.
someone's got to start somewhere. And
I will say that I think by comparison to a lot of other kind of fandoms and communities, I think the indie one is pretty welcoming.
absolutely.
so so I had a question for you guys.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So obviously, the tome of Indiana Jones is sacred, right? We go through, we keep enjoying it, we buy stuff, we visit with friends, we go to conventions, and we share the love of this sort of like, now mythologically sort of pervasive story of Indiana Jones.
Okay.
But there is a part of us, where we at least for me, I won't speak on the behalf of everybody, but for me, there is a part where we shelve it, right? There are episodes of our life and passages where we shelve those things. And has there been anything else, and I've received this question as well, has there been anything else in your life, in terms of pop culture, not your kids or getting married or any of that stuff, or your parents or anything that else has inspired you? Has there been anything else in your life that has electrified you as much?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's a great question. So yes, my father. I grew up learning about it through until the lens of automobiles.
Oh,
Like, yeah, he would take me to car shows, and I was interested in anything but. He would give me money to go, spending money for the show. There's a big show at the Speedway out here twice a year, and we go out there in his car, and I didn't care anything about the cars, not even a little bit. I'd buy, Zippo lighters for no reason, uh, band, shirts and CDs and things, anything I could find at the car show that had nothing to do with cars. And and in time I found myself like interested in things about the cars and sort of what they told me about history, and then I was sort of interested in history in general, the improvements that came and the materials and the way they built them, and things that became standard options over time and planned obsolescence. And there's so many things I know now, and I only know it through the lens of automobiles. And then that kind of transcends too. It's I would better define it as like things that go, trains and boats and planes. I mean, anything like that. Like, modes of transportation are just as fascinating as, like, people wearing shoes. You look at their shoes and it tells you a lot about them, right? That's
yeah.
kind of when you look at somebody's car, it tells you a ton about them. Like, I don't know Alex, but I see him go, and I'm like, I kind of know Alex now, right? I kind of know exactly who Alex is and what he's all about based
Yeah.
on just that one thing, right? So, yes, I think, and it comes and goes. Like, I'll go to classic car shows, and I have classic cars, and I have friends that I only know because of these car shows. So, yes, I'm very lucky that I've had something just as kind of polarizing. And anywhere I go, it's an icebreaker. I don't have to know anybody, and it's like, oh, you have a Corvette, and we just start talking. So, yes, it's as universally interesting, and there's so many avenues of it, and there's clubs and things. So, yes, it's very much ingrained in our culture as Americans. Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
cool. That's
yeah.
super cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because yeah, Alex.
For me, one thing that I used to do a lot that I've haven't done in quite a while now because I've grown up to I have kids and don't have enough time for it with everything else that I do is surfing.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
I used to
that's a
surf
passion
a
for sure.
lot before I had kids, and I mean, Florida, you can't. In Florida, you don't get very many waves. You have to wait for the hurricanes to get here, and hopefully they stay off land, but it sends enough waves over. I go over to the East Coast to, Cocoa Beach and whatnot, and, just surf all the way up and down the coast. And sometimes here, even in the Gulf, when you get them, you can surf here too. So, but that would be something I would wake up at before the sun came out, get up to the beach before the sun, like, you just start seeing getting that first light, and I'd be out in the water, and it was just
That's cool.
literally refreshing, and
Yeah,
just escaped.
yeah. That's a. I understand. I'm not a surfer myself, but I understand surfing is very much of a spiritual journey too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but
And
it's kind of a culture too, right? Like, you run into people who do that, and I'm sure you know people just because of that. Just
Mm-hmm.
that's how you met them, and
Yeah,
that's all there is
yeah,
to it. Yeah.
absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. Now, one question, I'll change the nuance of that question and I'll spin it around and bring it back to Indiana Jones, which is, I've often received the question in, the hundreds of Q&As that I've done, and people ask me, is there another film that has ever affected you like Raiders? And, or where I felt the need to remake it. And nope. Nope. Raiders is a perfect film,
Mm-hmm.
and even though, uh, and Eric and I know that he answers in very much the same way. Is that even though I've already done it and remade Raiders, it still seems like a great idea to remake it. It's still the only other film, is this kind of takes us into a different level of film nerdom, but the only other film that probably affected me as profoundly, and in a different way, and I think probably from the sort of like dusty, gritty, physical adventure, and I may be like, I'm a little reticent to say this, but Mad Max Fury Road kicked my ass. That film was great.
Oh yeah, those are I love those movies too. I have a
I
good time with
mean,
them.
Yeah.
And
It's not Raiders,
no,
right?
no. Uh,
But it was damn good,
oh yeah,
right? I went to the theater and saw it, and it just split my face in half. It was just like George Miller, man.
yep,
Wow.
Yeah,
fantastic.
I thought the ship had sailed on them doing another Mad Max ever. And I certainly even when they so they're like Tom Hardy, and I'm like, okay, like that's interesting. Like when any step forward with that was an interesting one, but I still wasn't sure. And then what they've done with those the two most recent films, yeah, I've got to say was very interesting. And it does feel like we're headed in a very unexpected direction in that universe. We're kind of staying in that bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean to answer your question, though, I mean, so yeah, I agree. I think Raiders might be one of the perfect films, right? But funny enough, so for me, it's not my favorite movie. I always get asked. It's
I
my
asked Alex the same question. Like,
it's
what did you grow up with?
yeah,
Mhm.
it's my favorite indie movie, and it's a masterpiece, and it's probably one of the greatest films ever made. But if I had a favorite movie, it's The Blues Brothers, and I know that that's a weird
Oh,
answer, right? But to me,
I love that movie.
it's
I
such
love that movie.
it's such a comfort movie. It's an action comedy musical appreciation. It's not a musical. They're not singing dialogue per se, but it's full of music. It turned me on to an era I wasn't aware that Stax Volt era of rhythm and blues, and I just adore it. And I just
And
think
what
it's
a
the
great
best thing.
adventure story,
Right.
right? I
Yep.
mean, the Blues Brother. I know every piece of dialogue from that film. I love it.
Yeah, me
I
too.
watched the Blues Brothers on Betamax until the tape broke.
Yeah, yeah,
I and still Spielberg connection, right?
yeah. He's in it.
There's a
He's literally
Spielberg
in it.
connection.
Yeah, because so Dan's in Temple of Doom and Steven's in the Blues Brothers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yep.
I just love it, and I would love to talk to John Landis one day about it. John Landis, if you're listening.
Yeah.
But no, it is my favorite. It's my favorite thing that's ever been put to film. It really is. So yes, I definitely have another one, and it's still
That's
from
cool.
the '80s.
That's super cool.
Man,
Yeah.
we need to get Deborah and
I'm
John on
glad
this.
you say that. Blues Brothers, great movie. Great movie. Yeah.
Man.
I love it.
Alex,
I would
Alex,
say
you
for
got-
me, and Indiana Jones is top tier for me, obviously. But this movie, and I still think this person to this day sold their soul to make this movie, is Jurassic Park.
Interesting.
And
I mean,
it's just because it holds up today better than movies today. I can't remember any other movie where the dinosaurs, they look real. I mean, because they are real technically. It's not as much CGI as it is practical effects. And
almost
I
6
feel
minutes,
like
right, 6 or 8 minutes of total dinosaur time
yeah,
in
but
the whole movie.
and that
They-
scene
but
with the
they get
raptors in the
they
kitchen
get you
still
going.
gives me anxiety and suspense. But I feel like Steven Spielberg sold his soul to make that movie because I still compare a lot of movies today to how that looks. And
Yeah.
it just, no movie to me has
Great
ever
movie.
looked
I love Jurassic
as
Park.
good.
Saw it in the theater. Great film.
Yep. I saw it in
Yeah.
theaters. I was, I think, when did that come out? 93? So I was 5 years old when I saw it in theaters. Yeah, because I was born in 88. And yeah, I remember sitting in the theater. Maybe I was a little too young to see it. I don't know. But that raptor scene
Once
in the
you got
kitchen,
magic, right?
Yeah.
The magic is there.
you know,
That's the most
and
important thing.
so that is probably the closest to me that comes to Indiana Jones. And again,
Yeah.
it's Spielberg,
Yeah.
but to me, like, superficial movie, not a whole lot of like depth to it, but it's just what I see is the dedication that everybody in that movie went and had to make it what it is, even to this day. I mean, that T-Rex, those raptors, like that, it doesn't get more real than that,
Yeah, it was iconic for sure.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's super cool. Well, thank you for
So.
entertaining that question. I'm always curious.
That was good. I like that.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of questions our way.
I know, right?
Yeah,
I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah, I spun it. I turned it
No, I
around a
love
little
it.
bit, but
I
All
love
right,
it.
I'm all yours again.
No, no, I love it. Thank you for doing that. And it's true interaction, right? So I
Yeah.
Yeah.
appreciate that. And obviously, I'm sure we have a multitude of things in common, and we don't always get to explore that. And that's really that's the aim of this. I wouldn't say we restrict ourselves, but we try to stay on some sort of a topic. It's always been the goal. But no, I mean, this is really an exploration of like our fellow fandom. There's no limit to who can be a part of this or whatever. I reached out to you because you have a very unique story to tell, right, and a connection to the indie universe. But obviously, you're a fan just like we're fans, and so I knew.
Completely.
Anytime you put us in a room, we're gonna find something in common in
We're going to
terms of
talk
like,
about stuff. Yeah, I mean, I
yeah,
think I'll keep coming back to the narrative of like, what is it that makes us fans?
yep,
What is it that keeps us excited? What is it that fandom is one of those things that it's kind of like we're holding our hands around a candle and trying to guide that flame through life,
Mhm.
which actively sort of strips away the things that keeps us excited.
yeah.
Oftentimes we're protecting
and
the
and
light.
that might be it. You might be right. I think I've always taken for granted that I never know why. You're talking about the exploration of why, and
Mhm.
but I've always known who. I meet a fellow fanatic, and I know I'm like, okay, I can do business with this person because they get it. But you're right. Maybe it starts with that. Maybe it's because we don't want to lose that. You might have hit the nail on the head. Maybe that's where the whole thing starts. The who is because they don't want to let go of that little spark.
Mhm.
And
They
then the
refuse.
what is how we manifest it, but the why
Yeah,
are we fans, right?
yeah, that's
Why
interesting.
are we fans? And then
Yeah,
Brian, you've seen the doc. Alex, you have yet to see the doc, but I'm sure you'll watch it.
Oh yeah.
And there's a deeper thing there. Why are we fans? Why? What is it the thing? Like some people are like, just not into it or whatever, or they go through their life and they don't collect anything. They're not real big movie watchers. They have their roster of music that they listen to. But I think, I don't know. If you dig deep enough, there are those things that I really love crocheting, or I don't know. I'm just kind of going out on a limb here, but hardcore fans, of certainly movie stuff. What is it? What is it? And is it that world is far more appealing than where we are?
yeah,
Is it those characters that we wish to manifest inside of ourselves are a far more desirable manifestation of the person that we want to be? That's the way it was for me.
Mhm.
Like, I saw this, like, I mean, Harrison Ford, man, like there is no other Harrison Ford.
No.
You know, uh, I want that.
Mhm.
I want that level of masculinity. I
Yeah.
want that. I want to be able to go around the world as a solo person and do noble, exciting, educated things, fight the bad guys, get the girl or not. It's one of those things inside of us that fuel our fandom. Why are we fans?
Yeah. And
That to me is an interesting philosophical discussion.
yeah,
I
you
love it.
definitely you hit like where I feel with that. And when I was growing up, when I first saw Indiana Jones, I'm also watching Batman, Spider-Man,
Sure.
all those superhero movies, but I never took to them like I took to Indiana Jones. And for me, that is because he was more tangible to me. It
He's
was
accessible.
he could actually exist
Hmm.
in the real world. There's
Yep.
somebody out there that could be him.
Yep.
Yeah, the end of the movies, you get the supernatural things that happen that aren't, real, but him as a character himself, the hero, he doesn't have superpowers.
Yep.
He's a real person.
He
And I
can be
think
hurt.
that's what appealed
There's
to me
vulnerability
as
there.
a kid. And so yeah, I grabbed onto that. Like, and I've never, and maybe this is like going back to the cosplay thing. I've never wanted to be Indiana Jones. I never feel like I want to be Indiana Jones. I like it as a, like, looking up to him as a hero
Hmm.
type thing. And that's I've never really thought of it that way myself, and it's just kind of hitting me right now. What that I've never actually wanted to be him, but to like be like Short Round and have him as like my as a mentor or someone that like my
Sure.
actual hero,
100%.
you know,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
that's really what it is for me. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
that kind of
we
just
all need
clicked just now
heroes.
for me. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand that archetypal kind of thing, you know. I mean, you could define it as like, you know, per the figurines behind you,
Hmm.
we're putting them on pedestals, right? You
Yeah.
know, and that there's a certain that reverence can be exciting, right?
Hmm.
You know, and that's fandom. Hell
Yeah.
yeah, man. You know, um, for me, you know, when I saw the film, it was like I think one of the things that pulled me into that world is like I can do that.
Hmm.
I know I can do that.
And you
I
did.
would love to see put me in those situations.
Hmm.
And it is an exciting idea for me. Like I want to see if I can escape the boulder. I want to drag under a truck. I want to run away from an exploding airplane.
Hmm.
You know, I want to hang off the side of a submarine. What does it feel like to do those things?
Hmm.
What does it feel like to stand in a room of fire, you know, and rescue the girl? You know, what does it feel like to do that? That's why I'm going to do it.
Yep.
You know, so it was an experiential thing for me. Yes, inhabiting the role, you know, but like I can do that, you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah,
um
that gusto, that want to do it. Yeah, I like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it started off as an escapism for me. I just wanted to be a part of that world. And the older I get, the more I just want to take my phone and throw it out the window and
Yeah.
go back to the 30s when it was just if I had an encyclopedia and I had a little bit of knowledge, I could navigate the world better because I'm recognized for my charm and my knowledge.
Yeah.
It's not as valuable anymore.
Yep.
Yeah. But there you go. I mean, that's a perfect summary, right? You know,
Yeah.
we desire a different reality, you
Yep.
know. And I think the essence of Indiana Jones is something that has really carried me through most of my life, you know, whether I realize it or not. It's part of my essence, you know,
Hmm.
as a human being, you know. And and it's an emotional experience. You know, I can't watch Raiders without being emotional. You know,
Hmm.
it's an emotional thing for me. You
Hmm.
know, because it's in parallel. My life is moving in parallel, and I see it. And so you know, it's almost like watching Raiders is like a re- reading my own diary. You know,
Yeah.
and
I was
it's
gonna say it must be like a time machine for you.
very much so.
Like you
Very,
watch it and do you feel you kind of touched on that a little bit when we were speaking earlier, but like you said, like you can't see it, not associate yourself with it and your life with it, but do you start thinking about things from that time and things that have happened in all of those instances, both recent and far back, like so finishing the film and on back into making it, is that something you say diary?
it's a very strange experience. So basically, when I you know, um, Eric said it best in many regards, and he summarized it. You know, which is I've seen Raiders so many times. Our film had such a profound impact on our lives and is so ingrained that when I watch Raiders now,
Hmm.
I feel like I'm watching a high budget version of our film.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm watching a high budgeted remake of my life with the film that we made. So it's a reversed experience where every character I see the characters that from my childhood.
Oh man.
Whenever I watch a scene, I feel it's kind of like I don't know. You mentioned Minority Report, and that's
Yeah.
just like this pops into my head. So you know, it's not so much high tech anymore, but when it was the high tech thing of like touching the screens and
Right.
moving on, right? So you get the parallel windows in on the screen, and you get this holographic kind of experience visually. That's the way it is for me watching Raiders. Is that I have this extremely layered and subtextual visceral experience when I watch Raiders, which is I see my friends, I see my history, I see my childhood home, I
Mhm.
see everywhere I grew up, every tree, every road, every car, everything, all the
That's awesome.
smells.
Yeah.
I get it in layers, of every location. We shot everything in Mississippi, pretty much Alabama for the submarines. Um, but that all comes back to me in every moment, every smell. I get all that. So it's really this like 4D, 5D experience when I watch Raiders. Not with the other films, but with Raiders, yes. I see my face there. I hear my voice there. And all the corresponding experiences with speaking to people, raising money for kids,
Yeah.
traveling around the world, all the ins and outs, the ups and downs. There's been a lot of adversity. The Raiders tour was very hard. I mean, I don't share this a lot with a lot of people, but it's like, being on tour, and the documentary premiering at uh, a prestigious documentary house in New York City, and your face and your friends, and the cover story is on the cover of the creative section of the New York Times, and you got back-to-back interviews with journalists. But I didn't have enough money to feed my kid or pay my rent.
Yeah.
I was freaking broke, man. And like, had to pull money from the tour budget to send back home so my wife could buy groceries.
Wow.
Those are the stories that people don't hear about,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not a sob story. It's
No.
just like things have different faces,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have different, adversity affects you in different ways. It makes you hardy,
Mm-hmm.
and it tests you, but the adventure doesn't always come without pain.
Yeah.
That's what makes it worth it,
Yeah.
though. That's
Yeah.
what makes it, in
Highlights
the
it.
end. It definitely gives you a much more bigger appreciation for everything you do.
Yeah,
So.
and like Alex, you had mentioned that you specialize sort of in you're in the medical world.
Mm-hmm.
When you see people in pain, when you see people undergoing severe trauma, changes your perspective.
It does.
And you help people out on the other side of that or not.
Mm.
But adversity, it toughens you. It gives you a
Mm-hmm.
realistic perspective. So the joy and the bliss of watching yourself on screen play your favorite hero, it didn't come without some hard knocks.
Absolutely.
I definitely have a few notches in my belt.
That's what makes it an
Well,
even better story.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
and I'm really glad you guys kept doing what you did. And I know there was time in between that I'm sure you've quit doing that 1,000 times. So
Oh yeah, I mean
yeah.
that's and that's that's a pretty chronicled passage of our journey with Eric and I together, is that I quit. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I basically told him to go f himself, and
Yeah.
I drove away and left him in a dusty cloud in the driveway. And I'm like, but then when Crusade came out, he called
Right.
me up and he said, hey man, I know we're not talking to each other and all that, but let's go see Last Crusade and let's finish this thing up. And I was like,
That's awesome. You see, these
Yeah.
movies bring you right back together.
all
Yeah.
and like that.
Yep.
The book is so honest. It's nothing if not honest. And I will say that, like, if somebody happens upon that book and they're not an Indiana Jones fan, like we said, they're not a fanatic, it's kind of an amazing story of that friendship and of that time, and being just honest, all these terrible things that we do to each other, whether we mean to do them or not.
Yeah.
It's not about assigning guilt, it's about admitting fault. It's about saying, like, I did those things, I lived those things, I was that person. I might not be anymore, but I was that person. And
A hundred
I think
percent.
that's the most beautiful part of that book, is the honesty. Like, that's what I took away from it. I thought I was going to get all that we're talking about today. I thought I was going to get like more of that feeling of fandom, and what the book really gave me was that honesty. It was like, wow, here's some guys that they don't mind saying, yep, that happened. And it kind of, and it made me feel better about my own life, like not that I've done better, but that I've done just as worse,
Mhm.
and it's
Yeah.
like, okay, like, here's, again, I'm putting you guys on the pedestal, but it's like, you're like, no, we're human beings too, and it's kind of beautiful in that way, and it's perfect. I wouldn't have it any other way. So
Thank you, Brian, for that. There's not a lot of
yeah,
people that reference the book, but I think that was one of the. again, one of the journeys of working with Alan Eisenstock, who's a great author,
Yeah.
who wrote the book, and then
Yep.
Eric and I contributed to it. But I think it was our idea to really commit to being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And when you make yourself vulnerable, it's risky, man. But it's cathartic, it's truthful, it's authentic, and you take the opportunity and you create the chance of connecting with people as a reflective moment, of like, I've done some bad shit.
Mhm.
I know who I am.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not pride. It's not, no, it's conclusiveness. I'm a human being. I'm flawed.
But I think a lot of people struggle with vanity, even and I love Paul Rubens, but that documentary about his life, you could tell he was struggling with his vanity, and how he was being portrayed. He was like, well, can't we do this? And the filmmakers like, it doesn't work like that. Like, this is my subjective viewpoint of view. I can't, if I let you manipulate it, then it's not a biography anymore. It's not a biopic. It's you saying, here's my story, and editorializing it as you want. So
life is not that perfect, right? You don't have we're not all polished,
right.
we're not all polished and perfect. And I think that's also celebrity, is you want polished and perfect, and you want you want people to believe that you're without flaw. You're like this, you've had this perfect, polished golden road experience, and you've done nothing wrong. You've hurt no one. You've made no mistakes, blah, blah, blah. But Eric and I kind of went in, and you have to face the darker sides of yourself. I mean, I think that's a lot more truthful and exciting. There's more story to there.
I think it's amazing.
It's nice to feel relatable.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'd certainly love to talk to Eric sometime too, if you could put in a good word for us. I'd love to.
I'm sure he would be happy to talk with you. And what I will do is, I'll send you his email, and I'll send you the link with all of his swag that
yes,
that
please.
He manages that. He has a really good looking website. Where he sells all that stuff, and it's super cool. It's super cool. As fans and collectors, I think you guys would really dig it.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'll be sure to put that in the description when I post the video here.
Yeah. I'll send you all that information, and I'll send you Eric's email address. He's very responsive via email, and it'll be a warm intro. So I think he would dig talking with you guys. But
awesome.
I appreciate that, Chris.
Yeah. Questions? Anything that you guys want to know? Anything that you guys want to ask me? Anything that you want to capture from the story?
I learned a lot.
Yeah, I think I got a lot more out of this than I thought I was going to, and I really appreciate, like I said, you asking us questions has been
that was cool. I appreciate that.
Of course, man. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it's about. I mean, this it's fandom is a bigger concept and a bigger idea and a bigger manifestation, just outside of just the thing, right? It's outside of just indie, outside of just Star Wars, outside of just Batman, outside of just whatever it is. I'm into Pokemon, I'm into whatever, Hello Kitty.
Yeah.
It's what is it?
I think we take that for granted. I think we just like, oh yeah, he's a fan of that, and it's like, but we take for granted that exists in the first place, and it's kind of a known thing. It didn't used to be a known thing that fandoms existed. So
and people have stereotypical ideas, I think, of what fandom is. It's just
true.
Like, oh, you're one of those. Or whatever. We fill in the definitions of what that is, but it's like, I don't know. I think there's a complexity there.
I love that. I really do. I appreciate your time today, Chris. I really, really do.
Absolutely.
An absolute experience. I would love to have you back on again sometime. Maybe we can dream up some more stuff. But I'm really, really thankful for your time today. And like Alex said, I certainly learned a lot. It makes me want to go back and read the book all over again, and watch the movie again, and just enjoy it all that much more again. with a new perspective on some of the
Awesome.
things. So.
Awesome. And yeah, definitely doesn't have to be our last conversation. If there's any sort of like bits
No,
or
please,
pieces or sound
that'd be
bites
awesome.
that you guys need, let me know. I'm happy to contribute. Happy to stay in touch. You both have my email now.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so what I owe you is I'll send you links to stuff, and then I'll give you Eric's email address. I'm sure he would enjoy speaking with you both.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, gentlemen.
Yeah. You have a very good day.
You too.
Thank you,
I'll
sir.
see you later.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.